Welcome to today's explainer. Look, we all procrastinate. It's part of being human. But what if I told you laziness isn't just something that randomly happens to you, but something you actually grow? Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating motivational story that's perfectly designed to completely shift how we view our daily habits. We're going to dive into the story of a lazy farmer and a magical seed, breaking it down step by step to pull out some incredibly powerful, actionable lessons about human behavior, procrastination, and ultimately success.
So let's kick things off with a pretty profound question that's going to frame our entire analysis today. Does laziness strike suddenly, or do we nurture it ourselves? I mean, we usually think of laziness as this heavy cloud that just rolls in and ruins a productive day, right? But the source material we're looking at today completely flips that assumption on its head. It suggests laziness is actually far more insidious. It's something that literally takes root. Keep that specific idea in the back of your mind as we walk through this story.
All right, Part 1, Big Dreams and Big Laziness. We begin our story with a young, perfectly healthy farmer. And according to our source, this young man had massive, towering ambitions. He was always boasting to the village that one day he was going to be the absolute richest man in town. Now, this guy was a walking contradiction. On one hand, he had these incredibly grand dreams. He talked endlessly about how his fields would wave with golden crops, how he'd have immense wealth, and how everyone in the community would respect him. But his daily reality? Well, while the sun came up and all the other farmers went out to toil in the harsh heat, our young farmer was happily snoozing away in his bed. When everyone else was working hard, he'd just sit under the shade of a tree, doing absolutely nothing but talking about his dreams. He wanted the ultimate reward for sure, but he completely avoided the required effort. The villagers would just listen to him and smile, knowing full well his actions didn't match his words even a little bit. Moving into Part 2, the condition of a magical seed. The real turning point arrives when his wise, elderly uncle comes to visit. This uncle was known throughout the village as a highly intelligent, observant guy. When he visits the young man's farm, he's totally shocked. The soil is rich, moist, perfectly fertile, yet the fields are completely barren, just empty dirt stretching as far as the eye can see. When he asks why the field is empty, the farmer just laughs it off, saying, "Oh, don't worry, I'm starting work tomorrow." The uncle, having heard this exact excuse a million times, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a single, magical seed, and places it gently into the farmer's hand. The uncle explains that if the farmer plants this seed and cares for it every single day, it will automatically yield a lush, magnificent crop across the entire field. But, and this is a massive catch, there's a strict condition. His uncle gives him a very specific warning. If you don't care for it daily, it will spread like wild grass. He tells him point blank that if he neglects the seed even a little bit, it will mutate. It'll transform into this destructive, thick wild grass that will violently spread and completely ruin all the good soil in the field. Which brings us to Part 3, Wild Grass and a Ruined Field. The young farmer, just overflowing with unearned confidence, laughs and says, "Oh, that's easy. I can definitely do that." He accepts the challenge, absolutely thrilled at the idea of a shortcut to his golden crops.
But the psychology of his procrastination plays out exactly as you'd expect over the next few days. For the first 3 days, the guy is highly motivated. He plants the seed, he waters it, he really cares for it. But by day 4, the initial excitement wears off. We have absolutely all been there, right? He looks at the field and thinks, you know what, I'll just water it tomorrow. What difference is one day really going to make? Then, one day becomes 2, 2 becomes 3. Before long, he's right back to sleeping late, wandering the village, and chatting with his friends under that same tree, completely lost in his dream world. Weeks pass by. He completely and utterly forgets about the magical seed he planted.
Then, one random afternoon, the memory of the seed suddenly hits him like a ton of bricks. He sprints in an absolute panic toward his field. But when he gets there, the ground practically falls out from under his feet. His entire beautiful, fertile field is completely choked by thick, useless wild grass. There is literally not a single crop in sight, just miles of thick, suffocating weeds that have destroyed any potential that land once held. His dream is officially ruined. He just collapses to the ground in despair, completely unable to comprehend how it all happened so fast. Section 4. The real magical seed of life. As he's sitting there on the ground, just totally overwhelmed by this disaster, he hears a voice behind him. It's his wise uncle. The uncle walks up to the devastated young man and begins to decode the metaphor. He reveals that actually, this wasn't just a seed for farming. The magical seed was a direct reflection of the farmer's own life. It was a mirror held up to his daily actions. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the core lesson of our source material today. Think of the crops as your good habits. Just like farming, good habits require deliberate, daily hard work,
watering, and constant care. You literally have to show up every single day. On the flip side, the wild grass represents laziness. Laziness is exactly like a weed. It requires absolutely zero effort to grow. You don't have to water it, you don't have to cultivate it. If you simply do nothing, laziness will automatically grow and aggressively take over your entire life, choking out your dreams exactly like those weeds choked out the fertile soil.
Which leads us to our final takeaway. Section 5. The right way to defeat laziness. This realization totally shifts our perspective. We so often think we need to aggressively fight laziness, like we're waging a war against our desire to do nothing. But the uncle's wisdom brings us to a far more effective strategy.
The secret isn't to fight the weeds directly once they've already taken over. The true secret is to actively crowd out laziness by building strong, consistent daily routines. It can be as simple as reading a little daily, working a little daily, and actively taking just one small step toward your goal. It is not about making a massive, exhausting effort for one day and then burning out. It's all about these micro-habits. When you dedicate yourself to these small, daily actions, your good habits begin to compound. And as those good habits grow stronger and take deep root in your life, laziness naturally begins to shrink, because there is simply no space or time left for it to thrive.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, vital thought. I want you to look really closely at your own daily routines this week and ask yourself honestly, is the wild grass of laziness quietly growing in your field too? Are you waking up and deliberately watering your crops through small, consistent efforts? Or are you leaving your field unattended, letting the insidious weeds of laziness quietly take over your massive potential? The choice of what you cultivate is entirely in your hands.